Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Defense of the Patients. I'm your host Cyphus, sitting here with my co-host, the master of lame analogies, Roland.
Heyo.
And very, very special guest, we're uber excited. Uber, I would say.
I called Uber to have them drive me here.
You were
so
excited you couldn't drive. Today's guest, the capitalist.
I like your guys' synergy. I like it already. This is good.
Yeah, no, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. I just got done. You know, there are certain peaks in your career and there are certain valleys in your career, and I think I just got done with like the lowest valley in my career, which is very odd considering I just hit such a big peak.
Yeah.
I was going to say, does the valley count being at TI5?
Yeah.
So no, that is definitely the peak. The valley was, I just got done casting an amateur, like, the most amateur...
It's not the most amateur.
The most amateur teams that I have ever casted, and it was 4 versus 5. I don't know
why. Did
like
somebody
I've never reached like even when I was an amateur caster, like I never casted anything that low, you know?
Sure. So did somebody just bail on they couldn't find a stand-in? I mean, that one of those kind of amateur leagues, or I mean, was this like a semi-pro league where unfortunate circumstances occurred?
Okay, so it's the Red Bull Battlegrounds. It's a pretty cool concept. But what it is basically amateur teams play in order to get the opportunity to be flown to Cologne, and then they spend the day being coached by either Sing Sing or Merlini plus some other pros, and then at the end they end up playing against the opposing team.
Who are also coached? The opposing team is also coached by...
So, like, Merlini's team plays Sing Sing's team.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's a really interesting idea. Like, it should be a lot of fun, but we are casting the They're like, 2 different rounds of qualifiers for each team, and it's really... And it's only in Germany, so it's really, really amateur stuff. Like...
Well,
more so than anything else I've ever casted.
You have to capitalize on every opportunity. You know, I just at least had to use that once. You know
sure.
I don't blame you. I use it all the time in all of my casts.
So why is big time capitalist casting TI5 coming to some small amateur league then?
It pays the bills.
Nice.
The join Dota bills. I mean, like, it's a really good partnership with Red Bull. Like, they're obviously a potentially huge client to work with.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And they wanted the qualifiers cast. What the client wants, the client gets if they're paying money. So,
yeah, absolutely.
You know.
I mean, it's true. I'm sipping on Red Bull right now. I went up to those Red Bull girls at TI5. I was like, hey, you should sponsor Defense of the Patients. And they're like, we can't. Like, we're just passing out Red Bull. And I was like, all right, I'll take one. Like, that's where that went.
There was a tournament called IESF that I went to, and they had a whole bunch of Red Bull girls, and it was great. The weird thing was, though, they had to open the bottle for you.
What?
Did you get that?
No.
Like, you couldn't just take the bottle. They had to actually open it for you and then hand it to you.
And like put it up to your mouth and like make you take a sip and like
make sure it's
like it.
Make sure it's your cooties on the Red Bull before it goes away. And God forbid then, you sell it or something.
Yeah, and then they get behind you and burp you afterwards in order to make sure you get out all the carbonation. Yeah,
they sit there and take care of you.
Well, depending on the Red Bull girl, that might be worth it, you know?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
I mean, I will say they were very attractive.
Yeah, I think Red Bull knows what they're doing.
I tried to get an interview with them, and they're like, "I just don't think my boss would let me do that." And I was like, "I'm sure he would. Let's just get." And she's like, "No, I don't think he would." Yeah. And I was like, "All right, then we'll get another Red Bull then." How's that sound?
So, Cap, we want to. One thing that we do, we don't just focus Dota, especially when we have Dota personalities on. We like to go back and figure out who you are. Give folks some something to relate to you with. So tell us a little bit about your history. Like, where'd you grow up? What was your life like? Where'd you go to school? That kind of thing.
Okay, so I grew up in a little town called Longview, Washington. It could be just like any other lower to middle class town, blue collar, et cetera, et cetera. It's basically in between like Seattle and Portland, Oregon. It's like right in between the two. I grew up there, went to high school there, and I mean, it was just like, it was a do-nothing town, and
a good place to be from.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we're known for like our meth production and
Nice.
like,
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
like you know, it's that part of, it's like one of those towns of America where it's just like, yay.
Do the
like there's
do the
not
casters
a
get
whole
drug
lot.
tested now too? Because you got to be careful with that now, Cap. I mean, I know they're implementing drug testing that may extend to the casters, so you may have to put the meth away.
I mean, we do work with ESL, so I guess I gotta be careful. Meth was never my drug of choice, I guess. I at no point in time in my life was like, yeah, I just want to ruin everything I have.
These teeth, fuck them. Don't need them.
Well,
Yeah, like, forget about having sex with semi-attractive women ever again. Let's just fuck everything up.
like I can only imagine it would help with the casting, though, right? I mean, that get you pretty hyped if you want to talk about getting some hype on the casting.
Well, no, I mean, let's be real. If you're gonna do any drug while you're casting, it's probably got to be cocaine, right?
Yeah.
Let's at least class it up a little bit.
Exactly.
So are you outing Toby right now? Is that what's going on? You know?
You know, we did this casual talk Dota is what we called it. We did one episode of it, and we never did it again, and I don't know why, because it was people who watched it really, really liked it. But in the middle of that, I made a joke about, and I actually did the full, like, because we're on camera, so I did the full animation of acting as Toby and acting like I was snorting a line of cocaine and then screaming black hole. I still don't know how that hasn't been made into a GIF yet. But it was great.
Well, I think you just found some people who will make it into
somebody
a
will
GIF.
do it for you. I assure you after they hear this.
No, yeah, do class it up. And I mean, when the camera pans away, in, and then you're just that much better. I mean, I think that would improve casting 50%, at least.
Yeah,
50%.
have to.
The come
Now
down.
every viewer when they hear a little bit of silence, like, is going to imagine that we've turned off the microphones in order to keep us.
Do you have that control over your microphone when you're sitting there at the big desk to, like, turn it off and be like, Toby, this game's going real bad right now? Or is it live the entire time?
We don't have so we do have an audio board that we can easily just press a button and mute individual microphones. I don't think we've ever talked to each other in the middle of a cast just because there's not usually space for it.
No.
Yeah.
The Dota community really likes its constant flow of information when it comes to Dota casting. It's not like golf where there's like you're allowed to just go for pauses at a time. Like
30 seconds later, yeah.
Yeah. When I'm doing some like more amateur stuff and it's solo and like usually I try and make it more of a golf cast because I just don't really see the point of constantly just spewing out bullshit essentially
and
like
fake hype. You can totally
Oh,
totally find the casters with the fake hype where it's like, oh my god, it looks like Skywrath Mage is going to send another. Oh, yep, and it's going to fall. Oh, it hit, everybody it hit. It's just like, come on, dude. Like,
Wow!
I've seen Skywrath Mage. Like the moments where you need maximum hype was the $6 million Echo Slam Ice Blast. Like that's where you need that like 3 lines of cocaine, your heart's about to explode, screaming.
Yeah.
And all too often you do hear casters that get hyped for situations where it's like, yeah, dude, it's just a DK. Like he just shield bashed him. That's all. But I understand that must be hard because you do have to throw in a little fake hype, right?
Okay, so the rule with Toby and I is that we don't ever try and fake it. You just have to put yourself in a place where and it's relatively easy, I think, for both of us. One, like Toby is just a very excitable person in general, and for me, I really get hyped up about like I'm that guy if you remember like in high school. I was that guy who would do like the victory dance or the chest bump or something like that. Like if I was a golfer, I would do the Tiger Woods like fist bump. Like that's me. Okay, so like I get super amped up about any kind of like sports stuff anyway, and I love Dota. Like, yes. I'm sorry, but fuck all the other casters. I love Dota way more than all of them. All right, I've been around the block for a while.
I just saw your MMR.
I've been playing this game for over a decade.
Oh yeah.
You know, screw Toby and LD. They may have been casting this game for a while, but you know, I was playing it for since the beginning.
So, did you? I read on that Ask.fm thing that you joined the Marine Corps, or that you were part of the Marine Corps. Is that right?
Yes, I just want to make sure that everyone, all the listeners, realize that you are the one who brought this up.
Absolutely.
Not me,
yes,
because
we
this
brought
has become a meme.
Okay,
no. I am just genuinely curious. So when did you join up with the Marine Corps?
So I got done with high school. I was a great student. I did AP classes. I had a great GPA, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, great, now time to go to college. And I was like, well, I didn't really like try for any sort of scholarships. Like I wasn't good enough in any one sport to get a scholarship there, and I didn't try hard enough in my classes to get a perfect 4.0. I was like graduated with honors and stuff, but like I wasn't exceptional in any regard, so I didn't really try for any scholarships or anything. And I was just like, you know what, honestly, what's the point of going to a big 4-year university when I could just get the same education? So me and my best friend, who's probably one of the smartest people that I've ever met in my life, we both went to our local community college, the plan being to get our 2-year degree and then transfer to a university once we figured out,
what you want to be when you grow up.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, I don't know what the hell I want to do, so I'm not going to throw away thousands upon thousands of dollars on a 2-year education that isn't going to do anything for me special that a simple college degree, like a community college, can't get for me. So
exactly.
So I can go through completely debt free. So I started my 2-year adventure in community college, and boy was it awful. I discovered like, wow, like I kind of I got that senioritis that most people do, in high school, and then it's like the senioritis never stopped. I was just like, wow, I am really bored with classes. Like this is just not what I want to do with my life.
Somebody hold me up to the keg. Hurry. I've got class in 10 minutes.
I wasn't really much of a partier. And if I was, I totally would have gone to university, because that's really what it's for. Let's be honest.
Yeah, no, it is.
Those thousands of dollars are meant for you to be able to go to a fraternity.
I mean, those parties are expensive. You know what I mean? It costs you a good $30,000 to go to those parties every weekend.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, like fuck Jay-Z and all the other like hip hop artists who think they're like at the ballerist club. Universities, man, that's where the most expensive fucking parties.
Yeah, they underestimate the smart kids.
I'm the guy that knocks at the door and is like, "Hey, can I come in? I play Dota too." And they're like,
"Get out of here, bitch!"
No. We don't go to a university like that. What I noticed when I started school was, holy shit, I'm in high school again. Especially in those intro level classes when you're starting to get your associate's degree, right? Where it's like, oh my god, not different faces, same personalities. I'm in high school again. Get me the fuck out of here as quick as possible. And so, that's where skipping class came in. That's
what led you to eventually join the Marine Corps?
So I was like, screw this. I'm like, I'm done. I'm just dropping out of this because I don't know what I want to do with my life. So like, yes, getting the 2-year degree would be nice to transfer into the university, but I'm like, it's so boring. It's not challenging at all. Like, I'm just losing my mind going through this monotonous bullshit. So I was like, whatever. I'm done with this. Maybe I'll come back later. And I had a job for a little while, but what I really wanted to do, in fact, I think I actually started looking at the Marine Corps before I dropped out, but I wanted some sort of challenge in my life, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to join the military. So for me, it was choosing between the 2 branches that I considered the hardest. Of course, now I know that's very much not true, but for me, it was either Air Force because they were the smartest in my mind. Like, I didn't know anything, and I knew I didn't know anything, but I was like, whatever, Air Force, a lot of technology, smartest, quote unquote, or the Marine Corps, most challenging, which is definitely true. And so I decided to go for the more challenging one, and went into the Marine Corps. My mom kind of freaked out, though, seeing as nobody else from my family was from the military. It came as a complete and total shock to everybody in my family, so...
What did your mom say about it? Was she like, please, Austin, no, don't. No, Austin, we'll get you an apartment? Like, what was she like?
My mom is a lot more... she is a strong, independent woman who doesn't put up with no BS. So she was definitely not the coddling, like, she was more like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're gonna get shot. And so my mom kind of freaked out, and so to kind of compromise with her, since, you know, it was, I owe her that. She raised me pretty much, like, kind of, like, I have a great father and everything, but my parents split up when they were 12, and my dad had to work a lot, so, like, my mom pretty much raised me. I'm really, really close to her, and I'm an only child, so, you know, there's a lot there. So I decided, okay, I'll compromise with her, so I decided to go into the reserves, which unfortunately left me with, I didn't know it. I kind of got screwed by the recruiter in a way, but it left me what I thought was with very few options. So I ended up going into the Marine Corps Reserves as an administrative clerk.
Oh,
Great
nice.
stuff.
Nice. You're not going to get shot being an administrative clerk, that's for sure.
That is definitely true.
I mean, shrapnel, maybe.
It's got to go really bad. Things have got to go really bad if you do.
I took the ASVAB, and I got the highest score that my recruiter had seen from their recruiting post. It wasn't, like, amazing or anything. It was, like, 97. I think you can get a max 100, right? It's not insane. But it was just, like, I got a high enough score and a high enough security clearance that I could have done whatever I wanted in the military, which included certain things like combat camera that I really wanted to do, or going into intelligence is another thing that I wanted to do. And my recruiter, because I was going into the reserves, said that my options were either cook or admin. And I sure as hell didn't want to be a cook.
Yeah.
And he led me to believe that admin would potentially make me work with lawyers. So I was like, well, that's sure as shit better than cook. So I went to admin. Once I got into my actual job, I figured out that was definitely not the case. And I actually could have gone for the jobs that I actually wanted, but
So how long did you serve in the reserves, or do you still?
I was in for like 4.5 years, and then I am technically in the IRR, which is the inactive ready reserve, basically meaning for the next, like, 2 years or so. I think there's probably 2 years left on the contract. I could be pulled up in, you know, for some sort of, like, if there's a war that breaks out, the step before going to a draft is pulling everyone out of the IRR.
Right.
Just legacy keys, control a drone, dude, and you will be awesome. You know, legacy keys. Just be like, what type of drone is this? What's the starting stats? I mean, what's my strength gain on this? And then,
no joke. No joke. I actually have used an Xbox controller for my military duties. Not even lying. So I was a part of a engineer battalion, and because I hated my actual job, I decided to go hang out with the combat engineers most of the time, especially when we were out in the field training. So most of the time I would actually try and spend with the engineers and do a whole bunch of cool stuff and with that regard. And one of the things was they actually had a bomb defusal drone one time. And you actually use an Xbox controller for that because, one, they know Marines know how to use an Xbox controller.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty obvious. And two, it's easily replaceable, right? Like, you don't have to have some special, military tech controller that, once it gets broken, you have to order from
Lockheed Martin or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you don't need to do that. It's an Xbox controller. Like, hell, there are a whole bunch of them
Those
over there in
$30
Iraq and Afghanistan.
$30 at the Walmart,
Yeah, exactly. So it's easily replaced. So yeah, you actually drive that around with an Xbox controller. Good stuff.
And so you were able to do the drill. You were able to practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a whole bunch of stuff.
How was it? Were you good? Like, did you defuse the bomb?
Oh, like, no, we didn't. But it was very, very simple. It was just like, it was more scouting things out. We were just driving around. There was nothing, no
Nothing
bombs
crazy.
to defuse.
Oh, that's
Couldn't really
badass.
do much with it.
Well, hopefully we avoid war for the next 2 years because Dota has to continue, and we can't take Cap out of that.
We can't lose Cap to a draft.
But if we do, the war would be casted in a great way. It would always be positive.
Yeah.
There would be a lot of hype. And
they'll get you on the Warcast.
Let's be real. Let's be real. I am not the most positive caster out there. So if I did do commentating on war, I would be critical as shit.
Look at this Marine, dumb as fuck.
I'd be like that guy. I don't know if you guys have ever seen like any of the YouTube videos where there's like, you've got some of like ISIS or whatever who just like don't really know what they're doing at all. And they, like, have a rocket launcher and somebody's standing directly behind the blowback and gets, like, totally, like, just creamed by the repercussion of firing the missile. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. I would just flame the ever-living hell out of it.
But when you call somebody a noob and they're dead, it's kind of in poor taste. You know what I mean?
I mean, you weren't such a noob, you wouldn't be dead, right?
All's fair in war and casting, all right?
Yeah, all's fair in war and casting. That's a pretty incredible story. So I have a few questions pertaining to that. So you went through some rigorous training, obviously, going through Marine Corps and then reserves. You had to go to boot camp. You had to learn, to sleep on top of your sheets so you could make your bed in the morning by the right time, I'm sure. Do you feel like that type of discipline carries over to Dota? And I know that sounds crazy, but I mean, discipline is one of the number one things that makes a great Dota 2 player. Do you feel like after getting out of the reserves, it helped you? At least mindset-wise. Not like mechanically, obviously, but...
Yeah, I was actually playing on a competitive Dota 1 team before I went to boot camp, and then I came back and...
Okay.
My team had broken apart, and half of them had gone to Heroes of Newerth, so... My actual Dota skills suffered quite heavily from going to boot camp. But, I mean, you are right. I can't say there are any... Yeah, so, I mean, coming back from boot camp kind of didn't help at all. But, that being said, I'm not too sure there are too many, like, direct correlations I can make from what I learned in the Marine Corps and playing Dota. Discipline is definitely like something that's important, I think, in all aspects of life. I think there's a lot more things that I can say to the Marine Corps that has affected all other parts of my life, especially like my career and stuff like that. Discipline is definitely a big one. I think there are certain like teamwork aspects, management aspects. I mean, like even now, I am way more qualified to lead a team after I went through the Marine Corps than I was before, like, just being some dipshit teenager, right? After I got out of the Marine Corps, even just a few years and that, like, I was still, and I still do feel very qualified to actually lead a team because, I was squad leader, stuff like that. Like, it gives you some actual experience in that regards outside of your normal, like, civilian management positions, which, perhaps aren't even as good as what you can learn in the military. So that sort of thing, like leadership was a big one that I learned, especially.
To be stern, but understanding. I mean, right? Isn't that the point? To make yourself known as the leader, to be listened to have good advice.
Or just respecting the chain of command.
And having respect.
Even such simple things as you know what the yelling we were talking about this, I know, before the podcast started, but the yelling that I did at the
Crummy Wizard
the pub crawl.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. At
the pub crawl. You know what that was? That wasn't, the people are like, oh, that's a caster thing. No, that wasn't a caster thing. That was my Marine Corps voice. That was me telling some fucking Marines to shut the fuck up and get in line. So even just like projecting your voice is something that I learned in the Marine Corps, and how to be able to get that kind of respect just purely through your voice. Right?
Sure.
It's something that I learned, and obviously, affects my casting in a certain capacity. But, yeah, I mean, it definitely affected many parts of my life, and this is really what it comes down to, right? Is that I am very, despite like certain things that I wish would have gone differently. If I had to go back, I would do it again. I would do it differently. I would do it in a way that would benefit me more. I would make sure I got into certain MOSs that I wanted to do. That I would go into combat camera or intelligence, something that I think would really enjoy. And I would probably I wouldn't go reserves again. I really didn't enjoy that. I would go full active, but I would definitely do it again. I would do it differently, but I would do it again because I think it definitely made me into a much better person.
So how do you go from the Marine Corps to casting Dota 2?
So because I was in the reserves, I had a lot of downtime, so I had a civilian job. I worked at an industrial paper factory, and I was playing Dota at the same time, and I also started doing a little commentating. I originally started in Heroes of New Earth when a good friend of mine, known as Insane Rabbi, he actually wanted to get into commentating and asked me to be his co-caster. And so we signed up for this site. It was called GameReplays.org. And Game Replays was the only other casting place outside of Honcast for Heroes of New Earth. So this was a community-driven site. They had their own $5,000 tournament, which was a pretty decent amount of money.
Oh, big money! Yeah, I remember those tournaments rolling out. Thousands of dollars. What?
Yeah, exactly. So it was okay, so we get the opportunity, and they would just use community talent. You could just basically contact an admin and be like, hey, I want to be able to cast this stuff, and they would just let you in. And if you actually did well and you kind of stuck with it, they would grant you higher tier games. So maybe you'd do a semifinal, maybe you'd actually do the finals, stuff like that. So, so I started off doing that with him. Funny thing is, the first time that we went to do it, he had some work commitment that came up. So I actually still did it, but without him, I had another friend of mine join me. And I did it, and it was a good amount of fun. I enjoyed it, and I got some good feedback, some positive feedback from people. They seemed to really like it, so I kind of caught the bug that way. I continued to cast for Game Replays for a little while. Then I
what year is this, by the way? What year are we talking?
I mean, you can actually.
I'm gonna date you. I'm gonna date you.
You just hold on. I can actually. I'm actually going back to the site right now. I've done this before too.
Just to reminisce.
Yeah, I've gone back to the sites and.
And you've been playing Dota, I mean, at this point for a while, for a few years at least.
I'd love to find those gems of capitalist casting his first game or a second, third game.
March 2010.
Okay. So StarCraft is huge at this point. Or maybe StarCraft has yet to come out. I can't remember. I think it was July 2010 or June.
Oh, thank God.
June 2010.
Good news. The videos don't exist anymore. We're saved.
So you're casting around the time that, I mean, just from my point of view, being a StarCraft 2 fan, this is when StarCraft 2 is about to ramp up big time.
Yeah.
So you're casting for this website. Did you ever think, hey, maybe I'm on the wrong side of things? Maybe I should get over and be like Tasteless and Artosis and maybe try and make my name in StarCraft, opposed to no.
No, absolutely not. Because this was just a hobby, right? I was a Heroes of New Earth player. I was actually playing a little bit competitively. I played on a team. We won some small amount of money. I was more focused on playing as a hobby and a little bit competitively, and doing this casting thing just as a little bit of a hobby as well, than anything else. I never even thought of ever trying to go make a full career out of casting at the time, because
that's crazy. How could you do that?
I'm not a StarCraft player. I really don't like RTSs because they don't feel like enough fun for me. They feel like too much work.
It's repetitive. It's like working out, dude. It's just like, okay, let's see. Oh, yesterday I could lift 100 pounds. Let's try and lift 110 pounds today. All right, I can do that. Like it. Yeah, it's.
I just stressed out too much, man. It's just like I gotta keep my APM up and always be microing some unit somewhere, and it's just like. It doesn't appeal to me as much. So and so there was no way. So if I'm not considering it as a career, there's no way that I would ever consider it. And in fact, I still wouldn't. I still would not ever, League of Legends is huge. I'm never going to go into League of Legends because the game doesn't interest me at all, right? And that's something that's very important for a commentator. You have to enjoy the game that you cast.
Or else it comes out as fake, like we were talking earlier. If you're just there for a paycheck, you're gonna do what you're paid for, right? You're gonna get up on there, you're gonna cast, you're still gonna be hyped, but you're not gonna feel the same passion when it's you and Toby and you guys are just like on point, back and forth, not talking over each other, which is the most fantastic part about you and Toby's casting, is you both have so much to say and you're saying it so quickly, yet you're never walking on each other's toes.
Toby and I have had a lot of opportunity to cast together, and I think even now when we don't cast together anymore, we still have that good amount of synergy.
Well, that's really important. I mean, for any type of media is to let somebody's point finish and start your point, and make sure you heard their point and respond to it. And and when you're in a game where things are moving as quickly as they are in Dota 2, especially professional Dota 2. I mean, it would be extremely hard for me not to just insert my opinion right away instead of wait for a good moment to talk. I bet you're good at parties. You know when to
Hey, well, we know you.
Insert yourself. You know when to fade away. You know when to come back in. That is definitely a skill that. I mean, do you feel like that was something that you were good at right off the bat, or took some time?
So the thing is, I'll get to answering that question. I the thing with me and Toby when we're cast together, and I think it's with anybody and Toby. Toby is such a large personality that you work around Toby, right? It doesn't necessarily go the other way around. And I'm not condemning Toby and saying that he's hard to work with or anything like that. Sure. He's just such a big personality. And I'm not talking he's very popular. I'm just saying personality wise, He's got a lot to offer, right? He's a very unique guy. So you work around him. So yeah, I mean, I think that's something that how I started commentating essentially was my really first go at getting big at casting was casting with Toby as a co-caster. And I think that probably was one of my biggest strengths was being able to, let someone else direct the action and let someone else have their say and wait for my turn. I think that is an incredibly important skill, both as a main caster as well as a co-caster, because you do not want to be that main caster who walks all over your co-caster's lines.
No. And you also don't want to have the petty disagreements. Say, Toby says that, Rocket, I don't know, some certain skill, and you notice that Toby's wrong. I love that you can just brush over it. You know what I mean? Because there's no point in talking retrospectively while casting, right? You're always talking about the now. You're never going back and talking about the past unless there was some crazy play or something like that. Casters get it wrong all the time because you guys are live casting things and you can't see every little thing in real time and call it perfectly. And some of the more amateur casters I've seen will go back and want to make sure that their point was heard and validated. Whereas, I mean, you and Toby, you're perfectly fine with if something's called wrong, you just keep moving on.
Well, because I think if you're good at it and you are making valid observations or even just worthwhile observations, you don't need to worry about what you just said. You don't need to try to backtrack and make sure that everybody heard how awesome your call was or how awesome your prediction was. You theoretically should be good enough that as you go forward, you're going to be making more and more of those calls, and that'll just shine through on its own.
Yeah,
you're really right on the money there. I think the way I describe it is that it's very selfish Because what it is, what you're doing for the audience, right? Mm-hmm. And it's very selfish of you to halt the flow of a broadcast in order to make sure that Twitch chat understands that you know this mechanic and you're disagreeing with your co-caster. But from a fundamental like broadcasting perspective, that's a very terrible thing to do because the audience is uncomfortable with disagreement. Like you just naturally are, right? Sure. You watch a show,
and it discredits you.
Sitcom. Yeah, if you watch a sitcom, right, and like the characters get into an argument, it's uncomfortable in a certain aspect. It's usually meant to create some sort of conflict and create resolve later. But when there is no storyline that you're making, you're just creating conflict for conflict's sake. It's not comfortable for the audience to listen to. So you never want to be at odd ends with your caster. You want to be able to complement them as much as possible. So that's why even when something is wrong, you want to be able to say it in the most positive light. So even if they are wrong about a certain, like, say they make a mechanical call that's wrong, but they use that mechanical call to back up an analytical point, right? That, okay, Blade Mail is strong against Huskar because, it reflects back this magic damage, which Huskar, when he initially jumps, it does a lot of damage back to him. It's not necessarily strong later on. Okay, it's pure damage now, Toby. That makes it even stronger. So instead of being like, no, it's pure damage, right?
Wait. It's pure damage, Toby. Let's get that straight.
Exactly.
Everybody listening, it's pure. Yeah, no, I completely agree.
You want to go, you're absolutely right, Toby. In fact, it's made even stronger by the fact that it's pure damage now, as opposed to the magic damage that it used to be, right? It helped you, in one sentence, essentially both validate what your caster said, back him up on his analysis, and then very slightly recognize the fact that, okay, it is, the mechanics are slightly different, but you also back him up on the mistake that he made by saying, like, oh, but it was different not so long ago, right? And it's just one fluid moment. You are able to go over that speed bump very gracefully. I think that's something that's very important for casters in creating synergy, and it's something that Blitz and I have worked on a lot, is our synergy together.
Which, I mean, Blitz is just a straight out hilarious guy. But we'll get into Blitz in a little bit.
So, all right. So, on your history, we've got you're as a hobbyist casting Heroes of New Earth games. From there, where do you go? What's the next step?
So I through my game replays work, I made some connections with some people who had certain ideas about commentating. They wanted to be able to create a new casting group that would rival Honcast. Of course, that was always doomed because Honcast was backed up by S2 Games, so that would never work. But the same opportunities there where they tried to get me to be their primary caster, and I did it for them. Also hooked me up with Absolute Legends at the time, so I ended up working with Absolute Legends going into the Dota 2 scene. So as I went into Dota 2, I did like Dota Live was a thing that's, some friends of mine put together that failed miserably, but I ended up going into Absolute Legends. That was my first like real casting gig, but I'm not going to really call it a real casting gig. Just because of the fact that I don't think I ever got paid. And we really only casted one good tournament. It was like the Absolute Legends King of the Hill, and there was only one rendition of that was good at all. And that actually led into me casting with LD for the first time. So.
Oh wow! So what was your breakthrough moment when you're sitting in the chair? It's about to start the game, and you're like, "Holy shit! I'm sitting next to what? It was LD. You just said was your first big personality you sat next to in Dota 2."
Yeah, I'm not going to call that my breakthrough moment, though, because then everything settled down. Like, then I didn't do any casting. Because then I casted with LD, and then Absolute Legends didn't do anything further in Dota 2. They ended up releasing their Dota team, et cetera, et cetera. They left the scene entirely. And then I didn't really do anything at all for a little while. I didn't think there was enough opportunities. I focused on playing some Dota 2, and I just lived my day-to-day life. And it wasn't until, and this is still somebody who definitely greatly impacted my career, I was sitting in a Skype call with my good friend Chappie, and he has some connections in the scene, and we're sitting there watching a game that Toby was casting, and it was a decently popular game, and I remarked to him that for me, it was very odd seeing the most popular commentator not be able to get a co-caster. It just seemed very weird. And he was like, well, why don't you go co-cast with them? And I was like, I mean, I have connections. Like, I actually had Toby on Skype from way back in the Dota 1 days, where during Heroes of New Earth, I also did some Dota 1 casting, and I contacted Toby at one point in time, and I had his Skype contact, but I never really talked to him. And I was like, I haven't really, he doesn't know me. I don't even know how I would bring that up. It seems very weird. Like, I don't think he would ever accept it. And Chappie's like, no, you should definitely do it. I'll talk to him for you. And I was like, that's on you, man. And Chappie ended up talking to Toby. Toby was like, yeah, sure, whatever. And so I got brought on as a co-caster for Toby, and I don't even remember what tournament, but that was I think the first real break that I had, because that co-casting with Toby eventually got me the popularity, and also got me the job offer that Toby extended to me February of 2013.
Yes, that's around the time I first started playing Dota 2. I had a brief stint with it where I was like, this game sucks, I'm going to play StarCraft 2 because this is a completely linear game. Dota 2 is terrible. StarCraft 2, there's so much more skill, like type thing, and I just had a horrible time with it because I wasn't willing to give it the time that Dota 2 needs. And so I still enjoyed watching Dota 2. And, I mean, the only people that it seemed like I ever watched was you sitting next to Toby, this guy named the Capitalist, and this guy named Toby Wan Kenobi, where it's like, okay, that's pretty cool. I didn't understand what was going on, but it was still fun for me to watch. Because, I mean,
nice.
I played video games, right? Like, I understood, the point is this guy wants to kill the enemy, and I think when this big fountain thing dies, that's when they win. And I didn't understand, like, the skill that it took for, some of the games that I was watching, and, like, when you guys would get really, really, really hyped, and I would be like, what, why? Like, what's going on? Like, what is that? It wasn't until about TI4 time when myself and Cyphus really started getting into Dota, and watching games, watching guides, playing the game, and ultimately starting this podcast, where at that point you were just you were the Capitalist. Like, everybody knows who the Capitalist is. Like, he's that StarCraft 2, that Dota 2 commentator. Could have been StarCraft 2 no, I'm just kidding. And it was really, it's really surreal to be here now, where it's like this, I always thought you guys were extremely professional. I couldn't believe the difference between Dota 2 around TI4 and StarCraft, because StarCraft at that point was kind of waning a little bit for me. Right. As far as the scene, people were leaving.
Not just for you.
Yeah, obviously for a lot of people. But for me, like, in my point of view, like, I stopped caring about all the shit that Blizzard was putting out. Heart of the Swarm, and, that type thing. And so I really gave Dota a try. And then it wasn't up until, like, probably 6 months ago that I started watching every pro game that I could get my hands on. And you got to realize that all of us out in the audience, Cap, I mean, we develop a relationship with you, even though you don't know it. You're a personality. Like, so many people have different ideas of who the Capitalist is, and, oh, he's a super nice guy, he's awesome, like, Capitalist is a great guy, or, some people with differing opinions or whatever, and it's just really cool to finally meet and get a history on all of that. I do want to change topics a little bit.
Sure.
To this Ask.fm that you said 4 months, still haven't answered this, what a guy I am. You are a great guy. I've heard a lot of people talk about their interactions with you and just say, oh, he's...
Well, it was Nahaz we were asking. Nahaz, we were like, we really want to get some more guests on the show. Who should we hit up? He's like, oh, you've got to hit up Capitalist.
No, this is what happened. I was like, Nahaz, yeah, we're looking to do like a TI5 hype week. Would you have any suggestions? And he's like, just ask Capitalist. And I was like, yeah, about that. don't have his contact information or anything. He's like, all right, I'm going to give you his contact information. Say it was me. And so I was like, are you, what should I say? And he's just like, just say that you want him on your show. And I was like,
don't threaten his family or anything, you know?
And I was like, okay. And, I hit up Capitalist and he's like, hey, I'm at TI5. Don't really have access to a computer, but I'd love to. And it was like, wow, that's really cool. But that's not the point that I wanted to get into. I wanted to get into the point of how fucking awesome this was to read. And for all of you out there, go to ask.fm/Dota Capitalist. He has a really great little thing that he answered here. It was, for all of you listening, it was about 4 days ago. But he talks about the people that inspired him and how they inspire him. And I especially thought it was really cool that you listed people. Like, for instance, LD pushes you to know and recall more history of the game. What do you mean by that? Like, what is he doing to help you with the history of the game?
So the question was talking about like what drives me, and I know I'm a very competitive person. So and competition is not a bad thing, right?
No.
Because like I view every single one of the commentators in the casting scene as competition, right? Like I want to be able to beat them essentially.
Sure.
Like if I could, like essentially like TI and maybe like Reddit is the only really way to determine a winner or loser. But if there was a more like if there was like a panel of
judges giving the scorecards,
yeah.
I thought that was Dirtmall.
10.0, 10.0.
I thought Dirtmall decided all that. And
maybe that's what.
And maybe that's another topic. I heard he cheated on Dirtmall, but we'll continue.
Listen, the panel would be like that would be all me, baby. Like I would love that because like I'm a very competitive person. I want to be able to beat people, right? So
sure.
The thing is like all these other casters, like every single one of them brings a certain strength that is better than me, right? So, for example, like the example there, that LD pushes me to know and recall more history of the game because that I feel that's probably one of LD's biggest strengths. He's not the best hype caster, in my opinion. Like I don't think he's the best hype caster. He doesn't necessarily bring the best analysis, though he's definitely one of the best people to bring analysis from the play-by-play position. Mm-hmm. Like he definitely knows more about the game than like say Toby or OD. But like he by far his best asset is the amount of games that he's casted, and he's got a really great mind for being able to recall these older games that he's casted or watched and make comparisons. So, yeah, I think it adds a lot to the cast when he's able to make a call about a certain item build and how we saw that, come to popularity at TI2 with X team versus X team in, certain situation. Like, for me, I don't have that kind of memory. I cannot, possibly pull that out, even though I've watched and I've casted, certain games. I certainly watched all of those games, but I don't have that kind of memory, and I can't recall it as easily.
I have to go to Dota Buff. I have to go to Dota Buff to find out what the hero was that I played in the last game.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like
I'm pretty sure EG won TI5, and that's about it.
Yeah,
that's
I
all
know
remember.
that much.
I think that's like LD's greatest strength, right? And like I envy him being able to pull out that kind of history at the ready in his cast. And, and that pushes me like, okay, I want to be able to do that too, sort of thing.
Sure. And then Coddle Guy, relatively new to popularity, we'll say. And he pushes you to have even better preparation. I have seen Coddle Guy. He takes pictures from time to time on his Twitter of the notes, the notebooks filled with information and what he does. And you mentioned on here, Coddle Guy pushes me to have even better preparation. How does that? What do you mean by that? I mean, in a more elaborate detail.
Yeah, so at the TI hub, like Coddle Guy always had his notebook, was always writing things down. About the draft. Like, I personally, have, like, I can do that a lot. I think it says a lot about Coddle Guy because he, his knowledge of the game is not the greatest. And he knows that. And that's exactly why he spends so much time preparing. And it makes him a much better caster for it, is that he spends so much time looking at, previous games and looking at the current trend. And he writes this stuff out for him to be able to remember it easier. It's something that I do as well. I have a black notebook for every year that I fill out for main events for pretty much every single LAN event that I go to. I start writing out information about all the teams because it's not necessarily something that I'm going to have in front of me when I'm casting, but writing it down is supposed to help you remember it easier, right? So
absolutely, it's another form of
it's called dual encoding.
Dual encoding.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay,
Cyphus.
thanks.
We're both like, yeah, okay, no.
Exactly. So like Coddle Guy, that's what he does, and it shows a certain amount of passion that he's willing to put that extra yard, right, to make that kind of preparation. And so, I want to be able to do that too. Not necessarily in the same way that he does it, but, he pushes me. When I see that, I'm like, that is a locked-on caster. That's an old phrase from the military. Somebody's locked on. They're like, they're trimmed, they're ready, they are everything that you should want to be. And for me, when I see that, that's a locked-on commentator right there. No. That he's putting in the extra work to make sure that his product is that much better.
And he's, I think what Coddle Guy's biggest strength is, and I had an interview with him at TI5 as well, where I was talking to him, where I was just standing watching the game, and I looked to my left, and it's just Coddle Guy standing next to me. I'm like, oh, hey. And that literally is the atmosphere at TI5, guys, or any international. I'm guessing most of these sporting events. But I think he brings a certain charm and humor to the cast that some casters just absolutely don't even want to do. Like that, you have your really, really serious casters that if you laugh, like they'll slap you on the hand. You know what I mean? And you have Coddle Guy where he's good for the newer players. I personally think, because he can make me laugh and still present information, which is what I appreciate.
I envy his presence on camera, man. My God. Yeah. I don't think there's anybody in the scene that is better on camera than Coddle Guy. When he's like in a host or interview role, like he's great.
He's a good looking dude.
I wish I could have that.
He's a good looking dude, for sure.
Well, let's read the bit about Zyori, because we're having him on, or actually, I think by the time folks hear this, they'll have heard Zyori's episode already. But
Zyori is also going to be on this same week that you're on, Cap. And Zyori, what does he do for you?
He pushes me to be a better host in interview, because I think that's probably Zyori's greatest strength, is that he makes for a great host as well as an interviewer, and that's something that I've dabbled in. I hosted for IASF, and then I obviously did interviews at DreamHack for Join Dota, and in the future, if I don't get invited to certain gigs, say TI6, I will probably go there doing interviews. So I think that's very important for me to make myself as much as a well-rounded personality as possible, just because I plan on staying in this career for the next 20 years. So I want to be able to make myself the best person I can be and as well-rounded as possible. So because I've experienced and I've gone through those kind of avenues, and I see Zyori and the things that he does, he reminds me, I want to be better at those aspects too, and not just the commentating, but being a better host and being a better interviewer.
He's really quick-witted, and that's the thing that I think makes Zyori a really good host and interviewer, is because he can think on his feet really, really quickly. Which makes him also a very funny individual.
It's just entertaining to listen to.
It's entertaining to talk to Zyori. He's a fun guy to just have a conversation with.
Well, we got into everything from Joe Rogan to Star Wars with him when he was on this show. We were supposed to talk about Dota 2, damn it.
I know, kinda. So this brings me to my favorite one, OD. What do you remember the line that OD had while he was wearing the black suit at TI5?
Okay. Let me just clarify real quickly. He did not say that.
He didn't say that?
Hoppin said that, and he just said that OD said it because it would be funny.
Oh, okay. Here this whole time
I hate
I'm
to
thinking,
spoil everyone's illusion.
oh man,
He did not say that.
Well, can we pretend he said it for a second?
Sure,
What
we
was
can
it
definitely-
again?
We can
That he
definitely
was
do that.
wasn't that he was witnessing the death of every other caster's career?
Yeah. Why are you dressed in all black? Because, I'm attending the funeral of every other play-by-play commentator.
Which you put on here, OD pushes me to work harder.
Yes.
Does that have anything to do with the comment that Hotbid's made for him?
It does a little bit. Not because OD is probably the singularly most talented individual commentator of the new group of commentators. So me, Ziori, Coddle Guy, OD, that group, like the new guard. There's an old guard of LD, Toby, and I'll throw AC in there as well.
Cinderin.
Since he kind of is, in between the two. But and then you've got, the new guys. And I would say he's probably the singularly most individually talented, and he has had a lot of success in a very short period of time because of that talent, and because of a lot of other things as well. But let's just be straight up honest here. I like talking about this stuff anyway. So I view things as a competition. The TI, the caster ranking there was Toby, LD, OD, Cap, and I got that 4th place position.
Honorable mention. Hey,
I was the first commentator out, right? There's no other way to see that but a ranking list, right? And Toby got the grand final, so he got top place slot, et cetera, right? So for me, OD comes in, very in a very short period of time is able to surpass me essentially in Valve's eyes. As a commentator, that pushes me, I'm hell no.
the competition.
I'm surpassing OD, I'm surpassing LD, I'm surpassing Toby too. Screw all of them. I'm gonna get better than all of them. And OD, I think by far is the biggest threat, essentially. And I mean that in the best way possible.
Yeah, of course.
That he is the most dangerous commentator out there, as competition to me, because LD. I love LD. He's a great guy. But I feel commentating wise, he's maybe dropped off a little bit because he's had to focus so much on running BTS, and it's incredible, a Herculean amount of effort that he's put into crafting BTS into what he is. And props to him for that.
Yeah,
Toby will never be able to Toby already has so much establishment in a certain way, and same goes with LD. They both have so much establishment that I'm never really going to be able to compete with them on a certain level. Just because they're part of the old guard. They already have so much, fans from the old times, and they have so much...
I will disagree with you there. I think that as this game grows, and I think... a lot of this just comes from... we've been doing Defense of the Patients for a little over a year now. And seeing the influx of new players and a lot of new players that are becoming fans of Dota 2, I think they're starting to outnumber the old fans at this point.
Oh,
the new
absolutely.
Fans.
And the old fans are the diehard 5K players that don't really lend too well to these newer players that just want to ask questions and want to be like, oh my god, Cappy has a mohawk, he's so attractive. I see the tweets you get where it's marry me, marry me, marry me. Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend? What are you doing tonight? That's the type of replies.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that's pretty damn popular, sir.
If you want us to start some slander on OD, we can we're a news outlet.
We'll handle the rumor mill, bro.
Yeah,
we
can start something horrible and just put you on top.
I'll start slipping you guys an envelope full of cash every week. You guys just
We'll be on it.
yell at journalism. You are absolutely right about that. There are a lot new, lot new players coming in, a lot new spectators as well. Some people don't even play Dota, but watch TI and start watching a lot of Dota. So you're definitely right about that. I guess for me, it's just if I want to be able to put myself at a more fair fighting ground against somebody, it's going to be against OD and not LD or Toby, because they have this uphill advantage essentially. I'm going to have the miss percentage chance.
Well, when you go for the king, you gotta go hard.
Yeah. Well, So for me, it's just like OD is the most clear like person that I can pair myself against in a way. Like it used to be that I paired myself against Yori all the time, right? Because he joined BTS, I joined JD, roughly around the same time. We're both getting like smacked down by Reddit every other day, essentially, with some terrible thread.
Another sign you've made it.
Yes, yes, it is.
Exactly. So it was like then it was like me pairing it up to Yori. Now it's like OD's like the biggest threat of like the new casters. So. Yeah, so I think like that kind of he specifically pushes me to generally work just a lot harder at commentating.
Well, how's your British accent? I mean, because I think that's given him
accent. I'm done for.
I think that's given him a little bit of an advantage there. People like that.
It's cheating.
People
really
like
is.
that British accent, which is, I mean, something maybe you'll never be able to do, Cap. You have to know your limitations.
Well, and
like that's the one thing about competition. You know what? Like, I feel like there are certain commentators that are more talented than I am, and that's okay because you know what?
I'm still going to beat you.
Commentator that's has more natural talent than I do. It doesn't matter. I'm going to outwork them. And at the end of the day, if they have more talent than I do, and they outwork me, and they get that first place slot that I'm trying to get to, you know what? That's okay. Like, ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want to be able to put everything I have into what I'm passionate about and, get where I can. Yeah. And if that's not top of the board, you know what? It's okay.
Okay.
So speaking of being outworked or outworking, what are you working on right now? What's in the works for you?
I mean, after your valley, you got to climb to a peak. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I've been practicing some different aspects of commentating. I've been doing a lot of solo casts lately. Okay. So I've been focusing more on calming down my broadcasts and being a lot more educational. Just exercising some theoretical commentating muscles that I don't use a whole lot, I guess. So I've been tackling that. I've been just trying to make myself a little bit more well-rounded in that regard. There's just a constant laundry list of things that I'm working on, and it changes kind of week to week.
Well, why not hire like a PhD in communications and like say, here's what I've done, listen to my stuff, how can I improve? Get that type of edge.
Nah, don't do that. No. I took some comm classes. I know what they're all about.
Oh, man.
It's funny. My company did actually hire. I had to go through this kind of media training, and it was really interesting. I hated it, but it was pretty interesting stuff. Where essentially I would sit down with a camera on me, and this lady would tell me she used to be like worked for the German news, used to be a news reporter, did a whole bunch of stuff, and I had to do certain things. Like she would tell me, okay, now act like do a news piece, but you're a news anchor for Gossip magazine. Right, and she would tell me to do something like that, and I would do that, and then she'd be like, "Okay, now do the more serious, regular news anchor role. Okay, now you're on stage as a host," and she would just go through certain things with me and tell me, what I'm doing on camera that I need to change up. For example, like I bounce my shoulders when I talk on camera for whatever reason. I bounce my shoulders, really weird, but she is able to identify certain things. And she's helped me fix them. And that actually made me a lot better interviewer for DreamHack.
Wow. That's cool.
That is really cool. So Join Dota brought her in?
My company, Freaks for You Gaming, brought it in.
Okay.
And was training for, like, Zoe, for myself, and for, like, one of our StarCraft 2 and League of Legends casters.
Well, that's really cool. So, real quick, I've been confused. So what is Zoe's part in all of this? Because I know that you guys are both in Berlin, and I've seen her. I mean, what is her participation? What does she do?
Zoe works for Freaks for You Gaming and does work for the project Join Dota. So she's basically a talent that works for Freaks for You. Even though she's a part of Join Dota, she works a lot of other gigs, namely a lot of Blizzard gigs. So she goes to BlizzCon, she worked GamesCon, this, not too long ago. She just works all around the world for different game developers and for different...
Roland has to ask. He has a huge crush on her.
No, I'm engaged. I don't have a crush on anybody. There's no crushes on anybody. No, because I was...
See how defensive he immediately got?
I was just curious because I had seen her at other events.
Yeah.
And was wondering... You know what? Fuck off, okay? I'm wearing a ring on my finger.
The back pedal. I had taken notice of that individual.
No, I was
gonna
say that the Tidehunter video that she did, and also seeing you two on camera, you guys, it seems like you guys have good synergy, and I was wondering why you guys haven't casted together before. Is that just not her thing, or?
Yeah, so we used to do some casting back in the day, but that was in the dark times where you couldn't actually be just a host. It's still kind of hard to be just a host, but with everything kind of speeding up, more events constantly, that means a lot more job opportunities. You can be a full-time host. Back then, so we did have to do some commentating for some terrible games that would show up at certain events that were just purely sponsored. Nobody actually played them. Yeah, she had to go through some terrible job opportunities, essentially. But she is just a host, and she I shouldn't say she's just a host because she does a lot of other things. She does video production. That's why Zoe and I work together for some YouTube videos, and we'll probably do that again in the future someday. But right now she's very busy. Just a lot of different companies want to be able to hire her for stuff. In fact, right now she's actually doing regular TV for German TV.
Oh, wow.
They recently, it could be really big. Essentially, they're doing a little bit of a trial period. They're creating, I don't remember what it's G4 or whatever. There's some gaming focused channel in America. And I can't remember.
I know what you're talking about. It's G something. It might
GSN?
be G. Yeah. No, GSN is the game show network.
Hey, it started with G. Best guess, right?
Yeah, good
But
guess.
they're doing something like that for German television. For 2 hours, 1 hour is more esports focused, and the other hour is run by Rocket Beans TV. They're a really big Twitch group, and they do more of the casual gaming style. Anyway, it could be really big, but that's what she's her full-time focus is right now.
That's awesome. Are you guys full-time over there in Berlin then? And how long have you been in Berlin?
I have been in Berlin since... So I got the job from Toby in February 2013. It took me, 9 months to be able to apply for a early discharge from the military and get out so I could take the job. I got discharged in mid-November, right before Thanksgiving, and then I left December 1st, 2013. So I've been here for a year and a half now.
Is the grass greener?
In Germany? No.
No?
I would not live in Germany unless my job was here.
Okay. I'm from German descent.
So
don't visit the motherland. I know. Germany is not that bad. I just miss a lot of things about America.
McDonald's.
There's McDonald's
Big
here.
gulps.
It's the 24/7 culture is actually the biggest thing. Me being able to just go to a Safeway or a Fred Meyer at 2 a.m. in the morning and be able to pick up, all kinds of food.
Yeah, sure.
Is something I miss a lot. Germany has very strict rules when it comes to their workforce. Essentially, you have to pay double in order for people to work past 8 p.m. or something like that. So pretty much there are very few businesses open that late.
I did not know that. But yeah, I guess it kind of makes sense. America, we're about churning out the dollar.
Yeah, it is true. Hey, we have had a fantastic time talking to you, Capitalist. Thank you so much for coming on Defense of the Patients. I know our listeners will appreciate hearing we didn't really talk much Dota at all, except the fact that you're going to climb to the top, and I totally I believe in you, and I'm rooting for you.
you.
I'm going to rip my shirt off, and it's going to say Team Capitalist is what it's going to say, instead of, you ripping your shirt. I'm going to steal that idea.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think they stole that idea, to be fair. So.
Anyway, we got to give our obligatory plugs.
Oh yeah, we do. But thank you so much for coming on. We do appreciate it. If you guys want to find Capitalist, you can follow him on Twitter, and we definitely recommend you do. He's always sending out interesting stuff, funny tweets, and just keep up with what he's doing and where he's going to be casting. Because odds are, if you're a fan of Dota or esports, if he's casting there, that's something you guys want to take a look at.
And ladies, take it easy, okay? Take it easy, okay?
Are you single?
No, I am not single.
Yeah.
I'm in a very committed relationship.
Okay, did you hear
see,
that?
ladies?
Committed relationship, he's not going to marry you, okay?
Forward all those requests over to @DotP Roland.
Yes, I am looking, so if you want to send them here...
you can follow him @Dota Capitalist, spelled just like you think it would be. You can also find that, just like Roland said, go to ask.fm to read that.
Ask.fm/Dota Capitalist.
It was just a good read.
Yeah, it really was
interesting to find out kind of what does drive capitalists.
And it was serendipitous that it was 2 hours before we started recording this, so it was like, wow, this is some good
fodder
talking
for
points. Yeah, this was interesting stuff.
And of course, check him out over at Join Dota and anything that Join Dota is doing. We love those guys and appreciate all their support of the podcast as well.
Watch his shoulders. Make sure you're very conscious of capitalist shoulders and that they're bouncing when he's
Send
talking.
him a tweet. Let him know.
Yeah. No.
And then if you guys want to find us, we're at defenseofthepatients.com. Follow us on Twitter @.p_show. You can search for us on iTunes, Stitcher, all your favorite podcast apps just by looking for Defense of the Patients. And leave us some reviews. We didn't get to any this episode, but we're going to get to more.
We should have read the German reviews today.
Oh, that's what we should have done. That would have been
Capitalist is on me in Germany.
Yeah, we've eaten up a ton of his time. We're not going to do that today.
Yes,
and then, of course, you can email us at defenseofthepatients@gmail.com. So, as always, folks, we thank you for listening. And until next time, this is Cyphus for Roland and Capitalist saying good luck and Godspeed.